So welcome back to another Seeka Q&A. Today's question is from Patrick Miller, and he says, "Hey lads, really enjoying the content, all some nice things." And then the question is, related to squat form, obviously you boys go ass to grass in your squats, but I find going ass to grass for me causes me pretty severe hip discomfort in the days following the lifts, whereas just below parallel does not. Do you think I'm missing out and not going full range of motion? Do you think my issues could be resolved with form improvement, lifting shoes, or is that kind of discomfort normal, something that will improve over time? Thanks, buds. So there's a few aspects to this question, right? The first is he missing out on something? That's probably what I'll cover first. So there's been a lot of studies done on what you might miss out on if you're missing partial range of motion in your squats, squatting to just above parallel, squatting to parallel, squatting to just below parallel, or else going kind of full ass to grass like you might see a weightlifter doing. What you oftentimes find in the research is that you don't really miss out on much, right? There's certain use cases, so like weightlifters need full depth squats to try and train specifically for catching weights at their lowest possible point. But if you're an athlete or you're just like a gym bro who wants to squat the most weight possible, you probably need to do kind of what Patrick's doing here and finding that butter zone. So like best case scenario for you. If you're on the opposite ends of the spectrum then and you're an athlete, like a field athlete or a real athlete as we might call them, and you're just using the squat to get stronger, you probably need to be going nowhere near as deep as ass to grass. Most of the time, if you're looking at like professional rugby players, professional football players, they're going to be going to parallel or just slightly above parallel. There's multiple reasons for that. First reason is that you produce more force. So like it's a better lift in terms of like being efficient at training somebody. Also, there's less risk of injury. That risk of injury comes mainly from the fact that when people are on the field, they're better in the amortization phase of the squat. So the mechanics they're building are stronger because they're stopping themselves in a range of motion, like at a knee angle, which is challenging for an athlete. And then they also have things like they're not really loading up muscles at their very extended range. So they don't have to have that extra loading, have that extra risk of like a repetitive strain injury happening, even though some people in an injury prevention context do like the full range of motion squat.
So I think Fitz covered the implications of having or not having a full depth ass to grass squat. I think in weightlifting, you don't have to have it. It certainly helps, but I think it's not as much of an impact in your lifting as people might make it out to be when we talk about low bar, or even people kind of slander Mark Ripito, and he says a lot of dumb things to be fair, but I don't think he's actually hugely wrong in saying that his style of squat would change that much to your lifts. I think you'd get more out of a high bar full depth squat, but not as much as people might think you would. So stronger legs ultimately, but it's not a game changer, I would say. In terms of kind of your specifics though, it doesn't really concern me that if you spent your whole life squatting just below parallel for your weightlifting career or powerlifting or whatever it is you need to get out of your squats or what reason you're doing them for. What would concern me though is that if you are doing high bar ass to grass squats or whatever, or full depth squats, if they're causing you pain, then there's definitely an issue there and it's something you need to address. So for example, if you spent your whole career being able to do them but choosing not to do them, then that's totally fine. However, what concerned me is you probably have a bigger issue going on. So full depth squats shouldn't cause you pain. It's definitely not hip pain as well. So hip pain would be something that would definitely make you take note, especially if an athlete said that it hip pain after full depth squats, especially a few days after. So just pain during a squat would be concerning, but also especially a couple of days after the event. If it's still causing you issues, I think you should probably have a look into what those issues are and try to find out why those reasons and where they're coming from. Mainly because it's almost certainly going to cause a bigger issue later on in your lifting career. If eventually as time goes on, it's probably a symptom of a bigger issue. So my concern for you in particular would be not so much while you're getting out of these squats, but rather you might have an impending issue that the sooner you get on it, the sooner it might never become a bigger issue and you can move on with your lifting career, and then you can choose not to do full depth squats. But I would say have a look and see, do you have some kind of impingement? Do you lack internal and external rotation? Is it upstream, downstream from where your hip is? So I'd say look at all of those things and see, can you address the issue? That would be my biggest concern from this, not so much the performance impacts. Fabulous.